I wore a $15 Goodwill dress to meet my fiancé's family and let them call me poor country trash for 3 hours, because when people think you're nothing, that's when you see everything. And what I saw was about to cost them everything they thought they had. My name is Amara Jackson, and I'm about to tell you how I brought down one of Washington, D.C.'s most powerful families with nothing but the truth and a borrowed Honda Civic. But first, let me take you back to where it all started, 6 hours before I walked into hell wearing clearance rack shoes. Welcome back to Her Value Stories, where every story is a reminder that love, loss, and resilience visit us all, no matter where we come from or what we carry. We may never know when life will change or why certain hearts are tested, but every moment holds meaning worth telling. If you're new here, take a second to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the stories that stay with you long after the screen goes dark. And to our returning hearts, thank you. Your presence is what gives these stories their voice. Stay with us until the very end. Share your thoughts in the comments and let us know where you're watching from. Now, let us continue. The floor-to-ceiling windows of my Potomac Wharf penthouse reflected the late afternoon sun like liquid gold. I stood there in my Louboutin heels, phone pressed to my ear, closing a deal that would net my venture capital firm another $50 million. Tom, I don't negotiate down. My offer is fair, and we both know your company needs this influx before Q4 or you're finished. I paused, letting the silence do its work. That's what I thought. Have your lawyers send the contracts by 5 p.m. I ended the call and caught my reflection in the window. Designer pantsuit, natural hair styled in elegant locks that cost $300 to maintain, diamond studs that could fund a small wedding. This was Amara Jackson, CEO of Jackson Ventures, youngest black woman to break into DC's Billionaire Boys Club at 34. This was also the woman nobody would meet tonight. My assistant, Jeremy, knocked softly before entering. Ms. Jackson, your alternative outfit is ready, though I still think this is insane. I smiled, walking to the garment bag hanging by my door. Jeremy, my grandmother used to say, "Baby girl, when folks think you're nothing, that's when you see everything." Tonight, I'm going to see exactly who the Prescott family really is. Before I continue, let me ask you something. Have you ever hidden who you really were just to see how people would treat you? Drop a comment and let me know, because what happened next changed everything I thought I knew about love. Inside that bag was a floral sundress from Goodwill, $14.99, tags still attached, discount store flats, a purse I'd borrowed from my housekeeper Rosa, who thought I was doing method acting for a play. If only. The truth was simpler and more complicated. 6 months ago, I'd fallen in love with Dominic Prescott, brilliant, kind, a political consultant who'd wandered into my favorite coffee shop and quoted James Baldwin while waiting for his latte. We'd talked for 3 hours. He never asked what I did for a living. He just saw me. For the first time in years, I wasn't the rich tech CEO. I was just Amara. So when he asked, I'd said I worked in business administration, not technically a lie. When he assumed I meant secretary work, I didn't correct him. When he picked me up in his Mercedes and I arrived in my beat-up Honda, the first car I'd ever bought, kept for sentimental reasons, he thought it was all I could afford. I let him think it, because I'd been burned before. 3 times, actually. Men who loved my portfolio more than my person. A college boyfriend whose family had paid me $50,000 to disappear, money I'd taken and turned into my first startup just to spite them. I'd learned the hard way. When people think you have nothing, you discover what they're really made of. My phone buzzed. Dominic. Can't wait for you to meet everyone. Mom's making her famous lamb. You're going to love them, Amara. They're going to love you. I stared at that text for a long moment, my heart doing something complicated in my chest. 6 months of dating, and tonight was the first time I'd meet his family. He'd been weirdly protective of that boundary, always changing the subject when I asked. Now I was about to find out why. Across town, in the Prescott family's Georgian-style estate in Georgetown, Dominic Prescott stood in his childhood bedroom, straightening his tie for the third time. "You're nervous." His sister Claudia leaned against the doorframe, martini in hand, eyes sharp with amusement. "Since when do you get nervous about family dinner?" "Since I'm introducing them to the woman I'm going to marry." Claudia's perfectly microbladed eyebrow arched. "Marry? Dominic, you've known this girl for 6 months? And from what you've told Mother—" "Don't!" Dominic's voice hardened. "Don't do what you're about to do. I'm just saying, a retail worker from rural Georgia isn't exactly what, Claudia?" He turned to face his sister fully. "Good enough? Polished enough? White enough?" Claudia's smile was sharp as glass. "I was going to say connected enough, but since you brought it up—" She sipped her drink. "Mother's invited Sloane Harrington tonight. Senator Harrington's daughter? You remember her?" Dominic's jaw tightened. "Why would Mother do that?" "Because Sloane is appropriate, Dominic. Her father chairs the Armed Services Committee. Her mother runs the Kennedy Center. A union between our families would be—" "I'm not a political chess piece, Claudia." "Aren't you?" She pushed off the doorframe. "You've been one your whole life, baby brother. Might as well marry well while you're at it." She left, her heels clicking down the marble hallway. Dominic sat on his bed, head in his hands. Downstairs, he could hear his mother, Victoria Prescott, directing the staff with military precision. His father's laugh, the practiced one he used for donors and diplomats. He pulled out his phone, looking at a photo of Amara. She was laughing at something he'd said. Her face lit up with joy, natural and unguarded. She was real in a city of carefully constructed facades. His phone buzzed. His mother, "She's here in 20 minutes. Don't be late. First impressions matter, Dominic." He typed back, "She's perfect, Mom. You'll see." What he didn't see was his mother's response to Claudia in the group chat he wasn't included in. "This won't take long. I've handled worse. By Christmas, he'll be engaged to Sloane, and this little distraction will be a memory." At exactly 7 p.m., a beat-up Honda Civic pulled up the circular driveway of the Prescott estate, looking wildly out of place among the Mercedes, Teslas, and one vintage Rolls-Royce. Dominic rushed out to meet it, his smile genuine and warm. Amara stepped out, and for a moment, even she felt the disguise settle over her like a second skin. Simple dress, borrowed purse, hair pulled back in a humble bun, no jewelry except the small cross necklace Rosa had insisted she wear. For protection, mija. She'd need it. Dominic kissed her cheek, whispering, "You look beautiful." She squeezed his hand. "Trust me tonight, okay? No matter what happens, just trust me." He looked confused but nodded. Together they walked toward the front door, where Victoria Prescott stood waiting, backlit by the chandelier, her smile as warm as January in Alaska. Amara took a breath, squared her shoulders, and stepped into the lion's den. Game on. The marble foyer of the Prescott estate was the kind of space designed to make you feel small. Twin staircases curved upward like arms reaching for old money heaven. Oil portraits of stern-faced ancestors judged from gilded frames. A chandelier the size of my Honda dripped crystal. Victoria Prescott's eyes traveled from my face to my discount store shoes in one slow, devastating sweep. "So," her voice could have frosted glass. "You're Amara." I extended my hand. "Mrs. Prescott, it's such an honor to finally—" "Victoria, please." She took my hand with 2 fingers, the way you'd hold something damp. "Dominic has told us so much about you. Though I confess, I pictured someone different." Dominic tensed beside me. "Mom." "I just mean taller, darling. Don't be so sensitive." She released my hand and turned, her St. John knit suit swishing. "Come, everyone's waiting in the dining room." The dining room could have hosted a UN summit. The table stretched for miles, set with china so delicate it looked afraid of food. Claudia sat to the right, her husband Todd beside her, both watching me like scientists observing a specimen. At the head sat Harrison Prescott, Dominic's father, silver-haired, imposing, already bored, and there, across from where I'd presumably sit, was a blonde vision in Chanel. "Amara, this is Sloane Harrington," Victoria said, her voice honey-sweet. "An old family friend. Her father is Senator Harrington. Sloane, this is Dominic's friend. Friend. Not girlfriend, not even Lady Dominic is seeing. Friend." Sloane's smile was pageant perfect. "How lovely. Dominic's told me absolutely nothing about you, so we're starting fresh." She laughed, a sound like wind chimes. "What do you do, Amara?" Every eye turned to me. This was it. The first test. "I work in business administration," I said softly, taking my seat. "Nothing fancy, mostly just helping things run smoothly, you know?" "Oh, a secretary." Claudia's voice dripped false sweetness. "How lovely. We'd be lost without good administrative support, wouldn't we, Mother?" Victoria smiled. "Absolutely essential. Everyone has their place in the ecosystem." Dominic's hand found mine under the table, squeezing. I could feel his discomfort radiating like heat. Dinner was served, that famous lamb Victoria had mentioned, though it tasted like ash in my mouth as I endured the next hour. Harrison asked about my people. I told him about my grandmother who'd worked farms in Georgia. The table went silent except for the clink of silverware. "How humble," Victoria finally said, her smile tight. "It's important to remember where we come from, though I suppose some of us work harder to rise above our beginnings than others." Sloane steered the conversation to the upcoming Kennedy Center Gala. "Dominic, you're still my date, right? We always go together." Dominic's jaw clenched. "Sloane, I don't think—" "It's tradition." She laughed. "Don't be silly. Amara won't mind, will you? It's a political thing. Very boring. All eyes on me." I smiled. "Of course not. Traditions are important." Victoria looked almost pleased. After dinner, as the men retired to the study for brandy and the women moved to the sitting room, I excused myself to find the bathroom. That's when I heard it. Victoria's voice, sharp and clear from the partially open study door. "This little country project needs to end, Harrison. Dominic's marrying Sloane Harrington by Christmas. The senators already agreed to back your nomination for the appellate court. We just need to keep this girl occupied for another month. Then we'll handle it." Claudia's voice. "What if Dominic resists?" Victoria. "He won't. He never does. He's my son. He knows where his loyalties lie. This Amara person is a phase, a social experiment. She'll take whatever we offer her to disappear, and by New Year's this will all be a funny story we tell at cocktail parties." My hand gripped the doorframe so hard my knuckles went white. Not shock, confirmation, and something hotter, sharper, more dangerous than anything I'd felt in years. Pure, calculated, rage. I walked back into that sitting room with a smile on my face and murder in my heart. Sloane was showing Victoria photos from some charity event. They looked up when I entered, their expressions shifting to polite dismissal. "Amara," Victoria said. "Sloane was just telling me about her work with the Children's Literacy Foundation. Do you do any charity work?" "I volunteer at a food bank sometimes," I said quietly, sitting on the edge of a chair like I was afraid I'd stain it. "When I have time after work." "How sweet." Claudia sipped her wine. "It's wonderful when people give back to communities they understand." The blade, wrapped in silk. I smiled. My grandmother always said, "Baby, help where you can." She was a very wise woman. "I'm sure she was," Victoria said, in a tone that meant the opposite. When Dominic drove me home 2 hours later, his hands were tight on the steering wheel. "I'm sorry," he said for the 4th time. "My family can be intense. They just need time to warm up to you." I looked out the window at the DC monuments glowing in the darkness. "Do they?" "Amara, I love you. That's what matters." I turned to face him. "Do you? Love me?" "Of course I do. Why would you even—" "Then why didn't you tell Sloane you weren't taking her to the gala?" His silence was answer enough. "Dominic." My voice was steady, calm, deadly. "If you had to choose between me and your family's approval, which would you pick?" He looked at me, his blue eyes conflicted. "It won't come to that." But if it did? Amara, you're being... Answer the question. The car stopped in front of my building. The modest apartment in Columbia Heights I kept as a decoy, not the penthouse. I don't know, he finally whispered. My family is complicated. They control my trust fund, my career connections, your whole life, I finished. They control your whole life. I got out of the car. Amara. Wait, I leaned back in. Thank you for tonight. It was very educational. I closed the door and walked into the building without looking back. Inside my decoy apartment, I kicked off those horrible shoes, pulled out my phone, and made a call. Marcus, it's Amara Jackson. Remember that favor you owe me? I need a private investigator, the best you've got, and I need them to dig up everything, and I mean everything, on the Prescott family of Georgetown. I hung up and stared at my reflection in the dark window. Victoria Prescott thought she could buy me off. She had no idea who she was dealing with. What would you do if someone you loved wouldn't stand up for you? Tell me in the comments, because Dominic's about to make a choice that changes everything. The next 2 weeks were a masterclass in psychological warfare. Victoria Prescott didn't just invite me to family events, she demanded my presence. A charity brunch at the Hay Adams, a private art gallery opening in DuPont Circle, a casual Sunday dinner that had more forks than a silverware factory. Each event was designed to showcase exactly where I didn't belong. At the brunch, I was seated with the plus ones, wives and girlfriends who hadn't yet earned their place at the power table. I smiled and nodded while they discussed vacation homes in Martha's Vineyard and their children's acceptances to elite prep schools. Across the room, Dominic sat with Sloane, their heads close together, laughing at something Senator Harrington had said. He caught my eye once, his expression apologetic. I looked away first. At the gallery opening, Claudia introduced me to her friends as Dominic's little friend from... Where was it again, Amara? Georgia? She said Georgia the way people say root canal. Yes, ma'am, I drawled, playing up the accent I'd worked years to soften. Just a small-town girl trying to make it in the big city. They tittered like I'd told a joke, but while they laughed, my private investigator was working, and what Marcus Chen, the best forensic accountant in D.C., was finding made my blood sing with vindication. The Prescott fortune? Leveraged to the breaking point. Harrison had made catastrophic investments in a failed real estate venture. They were bleeding money, kept afloat only by Victoria's family trust, which would run dry in 18 months. They needed Sloane's father, needed his connections, his political capital, his access to the investors who could save them. They needed Dominic to marry into salvation, and I was the obstacle they'd planned to quietly remove. It was at the Sunday dinner, week 2 of my torture, that everything shifted. I was in the kitchen, hiding from another round of Sloane's innocent questions about whether I'd ever been to Europe. The food banks must keep you so busy. When I heard a soft voice, "You don't have to pretend with me, child." I turned to find Eleanor Prescott, Dominic's grandmother, watching me with eyes that had seen too much to be fooled by a Goodwill dress. She was 84, rail-thin, with white hair and the kind of elegance that didn't need labels. Unlike the rest of her family, she'd been quiet during the dinners, observing. "I don't know what you mean, Mrs. Prescott," I said carefully. "Eleanor, please." She stepped closer, her hand finding mine. "And yes, you do. You're not what you're pretending to be, are you?" My heart hammered. "I'm just... Whoever you are beneath this costume, you're better than this family deserves." Her grip tightened. "I've watched them circle you like sharks for 2 weeks. I've watched my grandson sit by and let them." Tears burned behind my eyes, the first real emotion I'd let myself feel since this began. "Why are you telling me this?" Eleanor's smile was sad. "Because I was you once. Different circumstances, same game. I was a jazz singer from Harlem who fell in love with a Prescott boy. They tried to destroy me. I let them." She touched my cheek. "Don't let them break you, Amara. Whatever you're planning, and I know you're planning something, make sure it's worth it." "Make sure he's worth it." She left me standing there, her words echoing in my mind. Make sure he's worth it. Was he? That night, Dominic came to my apartment, the decoy one, with Chinese takeout and an expression that told me he knew something was wrong. "You've been distant," he said, setting the food on my small kitchen counter. "Talk to me, Amara. What's going on?" I could have lied, could have smiled and said everything was fine. Instead, I said, "Tell me about Maria." His face went pale. "How do you know about—" "Your grandmother mentioned her. Said your mother destroyed that relationship." I turned to face him fully. "Tell me what happened, Dominic. I need to know." He sat down heavily on my thrift store couch, head in his hands. Maria was— God, I was 28. She was a high school teacher in Southeast DC, brilliant, funny, kind. Everything I wanted. His voice cracked. I loved her. I was going to propose. What happened? My mother. The words were bitter. She hired a private investigator who manufactured evidence that Maria was having an affair. Photos, text messages, all fake but convincing enough. She presented them to me at a family dinner in front of everyone, said she was protecting me from a gold digger. My stomach twisted. I confronted Maria. She denied it, of course, but I believed the evidence. I believed my mother. He looked up at me, eyes haunted. I found out the truth 3 years later. By then, Maria was married to someone else, had a baby. She'd moved on. And you? I've been afraid ever since. Afraid to trust my own judgment. Afraid to stand up to them. He reached for my hand. Until I met you. You make me want to be braver. Amara? You make me want to— Then be brave. I pulled my hand back. Because in 2 weeks your family is hosting that Kennedy Center gala, and your mother told me last Sunday, very sweetly, that you'd be escorting Sloane, and I should understand it's just for appearances. His face confirmed what I already knew. She asked you to do it, didn't she? It's complicated. It's not. I stood. Either I matter to you more than their approval, or I don't. Either you choose me or you choose them. There's no middle ground anymore, Dominic. Amara, please. I need you to leave. What? I need you to leave and figure out what you really want, because I won't be anyone's placeholder. I won't be the girl you love in private and hide in public. I deserve better than that. He stood, his face desperate. I love you. Then prove it. My voice was steady, even as my heart was breaking. At that gala, in front of everyone. Prove it. He left without another word. After the door closed, I pulled out my phone and called Marcus Chen. Tell me you found something, I said. Oh, I found something. His voice was grim. Victoria Prescott embezzled $3.2 million from the Family Charitable Foundation over the last 5 years. Claudia's husband is having an affair with, wait for it, Sloane Harrington, and Harrison's about to be indicted for tax fraud. I smiled slowly. Send me everything. Amara, what are you planning? Justice, I said. I'm planning justice. I hung up and walked to my window, looking out at the city lights. My grandmother's voice echoed in my memory. Baby girl, when you know the truth, you have power. Use it wisely. The gala was in 2 weeks. 2 weeks to decide if Dominic Prescott was worth saving from his family. 2 weeks to prepare for war. Have you ever had to choose between love and self-respect? Drop your story below, because what happens at that gala will change everything. 3 days before the gala, Dominic showed up at my door at midnight. His hair was disheveled, his tie loosened, and in his hands was a duffel bag. I told them no, he said before I could speak. About Sloane, about the gala, about all of it. My heart stuttered. Dominic, I'm not finished. He stepped closer. I told my mother that I'm bringing you to the Kennedy Center, that you're the woman I love, and if she can't accept that, she can disinherit me for all I care. His voice shook. I told my father that I'd rather lose the trust fund than lose you, and I told Sloane that whatever fantasy my family sold her needs to end because I'm not available. I'm yours. The words hung between us like a bridge I was afraid to cross. Your mother must have lost her mind, I whispered. She threatened to cut me off completely, said I'd lose everything, the connections, the money, my place in the family. He set down the bag. So I packed. I'm staying at a hotel until I find my own place. I'm done living in their shadow, Amara. I'm done being afraid. I searched his face for doubt, for hesitation. Found none. Why now? Because my grandmother's in the hospital. Stage 4 cancer. She's been hiding it for months. His voice cracked. I went to see her tonight. She grabbed my hand and said, "Don't waste your life being a coward like I was. Choose love, Dominic. Choose love while you still can." Tears spilled down my cheeks before I could stop them. He cupped my face with both hands. "I'm choosing you, Amara, not because you fit into their world, but because you make me want to leave it. Because when I'm with you, I'm the man I always wanted to be." I kissed him then, deep and desperate and real. That night, we didn't sleep. We talked until sunrise, tangled in my sheets, sharing pieces of ourselves we'd kept hidden. He told me about the pressure of being a Prescott, the suffocating expectations, the way he'd learned to make himself smaller to keep the peace. I told him about my grandmother, the real story, how she'd raised me on nothing, worked 3 jobs, taught me that dignity wasn't measured in dollars. I didn't tell him about the $180 million, about the penthouse, about who I really was. Not yet, but for the first time, I wanted to. After the gala, I promised myself, after I see if he really means this, I'll tell him everything. We spent the next 2 days in a stolen bubble. He took me to his favorite hole-in-the-wall Ethiopian restaurant in Adams Morgan. We walked the monuments at sunset. We laughed and held hands and existed in a world where his family's approval didn't matter. On the 3rd morning, wrapped in his arms, I whispered, "I need to tell you something. Anything. I'm not who you think." His phone exploded with calls. His mother, his father, Claudia, all with the same message. Eleanor had taken a turn. They needed him at Georgetown Hospital immediately. He kissed my forehead. "Hold that thought. Come with me?" I nodded, my confession caught in my throat. At the hospital, the Prescott family was assembled like generals planning a war. Victoria's eyes were red but calculating. Harrison paced. Claudia dabbed at tears that looked suspiciously strategic. Eleanor was asleep, frail and small, in the hospital bed. Victoria pulled Dominic aside. I stayed back, pretending not to listen. "This rebellion ends now," she hissed. "Your grandmother is dying. You will not add to this family's stress by parading that girl at the Kennedy Center. You will escort Sloan as planned, smile for the cameras, and save this family from further embarrassment." "Mom, I already told you. I don't care what you told me." Her voice rose, then dropped to something more dangerous. "You want to throw away everything we've built for some country nobody? Fine. But you'll do it after your grandmother is gone. You owe her that much dignity." I watched Dominic's face crumble. "That's emotional blackmail," he said weakly. "That's family," Victoria corrected, "something your little girlfriend clearly knows nothing about." The Kennedy Center glittered like a jewelry box under the November sky. I arrived alone in my Honda, wearing the most expensive dress I'd ever hidden in the back of my closet, a midnight blue Ely Saab that had cost $15,000. My hair was down, natural locks adorned with gold cuffs. My grandmother's diamond earrings, actual diamonds, 2 carats each, caught the light. The transformation was complete. I watched from across the hall as Dominic entered with Sloan on his arm. He'd called me 6 times that afternoon, left 4 voicemails, each more desperate than the last. "Amara, please understand. Just tonight, just to keep the peace while grandmother is sick. After this, I swear, everything changes." I'd listened to each message, deleted them all, because I'd heard this song before, from the college boyfriend who'd let his family pay me off, from the men who'd loved me in private and hid me in public. Dominic looked miserable in his tuxedo, Sloan radiant beside him in blush Chanel. Victoria and Harrison flanked them like prison guards, smiling for photographers. The perfect family, the perfect match. I was about to destroy it all. I walked through those doors with my head high, and I felt the room shift. Heads turned. Whispers started. Marcus Chen appeared at my elbow. I'd invited him as my date, looking sharp in Tom Ford. "You ready for this?" he murmured. "Born ready." We made our entrance. Victoria saw me first. Her champagne glass actually slipped from her fingers, shattering on the marble floor. Claudia's mouth fell open, Harrison's face went purple, and Dominic looked at me like he was seeing a ghost. "Amara?" His voice carried across the sudden silence. "What are you? How did you—" Sloane's grip tightened on his arm, her smile frozen. I walked straight to them, Marcus a silent presence at my side. "Victoria," I said warmly. "What a beautiful event. The foundation must be so proud, though I suppose charitable donations are easier when you're embezzling from the charity itself." Her face went white. "I don't know what you think you— $3.2 million over 5 years. I said it loud enough for the circle of donors around us to hear. "I have the documentation, bank transfers, falsified receipts, all of it." "This is slander," Harrison blustered. "We'll sue you for what? Telling the truth?" I turned to Claudia. "Speaking of truth, does your husband know about Sloane's little visits to your Connecticut lake house when he's traveling?" Claudia's face crumbled. Todd, her husband, spun to stare at Sloane, who'd gone pale as death. The crowd was growing now, phones out, sensing blood in the water. "Who the hell are you?" Victoria's voice shook with rage. I smiled. "I'm Amara Jackson, CEO of Jackson Ventures, Forbes 30 under 30. I'm worth $180 million, give or take, depending on the market. And for the last 3 months, I've been pretending to be a poor country girl just to see what kind of people you really were." I turned to Dominic, whose face looked shattered. "You asked me once what I wanted from you. I wanted you to choose me. Not after your grandmother died, not when it was convenient, not when your family gave you permission." My voice broke. "I wanted you to choose me when it cost you something." "Amara, you chose them." I pulled off the simple promise ring he'd given me weeks ago, before Eleanor got sick, before he'd caved to their pressure. "You always choose them." I handed the ring to Sloane. "Here, you've earned it." Dominic reached for me. "Please, let me explain." "There's nothing to explain." I stepped back. "You showed me exactly who you are. A good man, Dominic. Just not a brave one." I turned to Victoria one last time. "The IRS received an anonymous tip this morning about Harrison's tax fraud. The Washington Post will run the embezzlement story tomorrow, and Senator Harrington just got a very interesting package about his daughter's affair." Victoria lunged forward. "You vindictive little—" "I'm not vindictive," I corrected. "I'm just done pretending to be less than I am so you could feel better about yourself." I walked out of the Kennedy Center with my head high, Marcus beside me, leaving chaos and ruin in my wake. Behind me, I heard Dominic call my name one last time. I didn't look back. I made it to my car before the tears came. Marcus didn't say anything, just handed me his handkerchief and drove me home, to my real home, the penthouse I'd been hiding for months. "You okay?" he asked as we pulled up. "I will be." I wiped my eyes. "Thank you for tonight." "Anytime?" He hesitated. "For what it's worth?" He looked destroyed in there. "Good," I said. But my voice cracked on the word. Inside my penthouse, I kicked off my heels, poured a glass of wine I didn't drink, and stared out at the Potomac. The monuments glowed in the distance, symbols of power, legacy, history. I'd won. I'd exposed them all. I'd reclaimed my dignity. So why did I feel so empty? My phone buzzed, 47 missed calls from Dominic. I blocked his number. Then Eleanor's name flashed across my screen. My hand trembled as I answered. "Mrs. Prescott? He's here." Her voice was weak but fierce. "At the hospital. Refused to leave my bedside after the gala. Told his mother to go to hell. His words, not mine. Told his father he'd testify against him if needed. Told Claudia she was on her own." My heart seized. "Eleanor, he chose you, child, just about 6 hours too late. She coughed, the sound rattling. Question is, are you brave enough to let him prove it? I can't go through this again, I can't. Then don't. But ask yourself something first. Do you love him? The answer came without thought. Yes. Then maybe, Eleanor whispered, give him one more chance to be the man he wants to be. Not for me. Not because I'm dying, but because love, real love, is worth fighting for. Even when it's messy. Even when it's hard. She hung up before I could respond. I sat there for 2 hours, staring at my phone. At 3 a.m., someone buzzed from the lobby. The security camera showed Dominic, still in his tuxedo, looking wrecked. Ms. Jackson? My doorman's voice crackled through the intercom. There's a Mr. Prescott here. He says he's not leaving until you talk to him. Should I call the police? I closed my eyes, took a breath. Send him up. When I opened the door, Dominic looked like he'd been through a war. His bow tie hung loose, his eyes were red, his hands shook. This is where you really live, he said quietly, taking in the penthouse. Not a question, a realization. Yes. You're really worth $180 million. Yes. And you let me buy you dinner at Chipotle for 6 months. Despite everything, I almost smiled. I like Chipotle. He stepped inside and I closed the door behind him. I'm so sorry. The words tumbled out. For tonight. For not choosing you when it mattered. For being exactly the coward you said I was. Dominic, let me finish, please. He moved closer. After you left, I went to the hospital. My grandmother looked at me and said, You just made the same mistake I did 60 years ago. You chose comfort over love. How'd that feel? And I realized it felt like dying. Tears streamed down his face now, so I told them everything. Told my mother she was a criminal and I wanted nothing to do with her money. Told my father I'd testify if it helped put him away. Told Claudia she deserved everything coming to her. His voice broke. I lost everything tonight, Amara. My family, my trust fund, my place in their world, and I'd do it again. I'd do it 1,000 times if it meant I got one more chance with you. Why should I believe you? Because I'm not asking you to. He pulled something from his pocket, a flash drive. This has every password to every account I have, every asset, every investment, everything. I want you to see it all. No more secrets, no more hiding. He set it on my counter. I don't want your money, Dominic. I know, you never did. That's what makes you different from everyone else in my life. He took my hands. You tested my family and found them worthless. Now I'm asking you to test me, not as Harrison Prescott's son, not as a trust fund kid, just as Dominic, the man who loves you, the man who wants to spend the rest of his life proving he's worthy of you. I looked into his eyes and saw it, the truth I'd been searching for all along. Not perfection, not fearlessness, just honest, imperfect love. If I take you back, I said slowly, it's on my terms. No more hiding who I am, no more shrinking myself, no more choosing your family's approval over our relationship. Done. And you're going to therapy. Serious, deep, unpack all your family trauma therapy. Already scheduled, first appointment's Monday. And we're starting over, dating properly, as equals. He smiled through his tears. Can equals still split Chipotle? I laughed, a real, surprised laugh that broke something open in my chest. You're going to have to grovel, you know, for months. I'm an excellent groveler. He pulled me closer. I'll grovel every day for the rest of my life if that's what it takes. I looked at this broken, beautiful man who'd finally found his courage, and I made my choice. Kiss me, you idiot. He did. And for the first time in months, I wasn't performing, wasn't testing, wasn't hiding. I was just Amara, being loved exactly as I was. 3 months later, Eleanor passed peacefully with Dominic and me holding her hands. She left him a letter that said, I told you to choose love. Thank God you finally listened. P.S. Amara, make him work for it. He's a Prescott. We need the practice. 6 months after that, Dominic proposed again, this time in my favorite Chipotle, with a ring he'd saved for himself. No family money involved. I said yes. Not because he was perfect, but because he'd finally shown up as himself. And that, it turned out, was exactly what I'd been looking for all along. Victoria and Harrison faced federal charges. Claudia divorced Todd. Sloane disappeared from D.C. society. The Prescott empire crumbled. But Dominic and I, we built something better, something real, something that didn't require anyone to pretend to be less than they were. So here's my question for you. Have you ever had to teach someone how to love you properly? Drop your story in the comments, because I promise you're not alone. And if this story touched you, hit that like button and subscribe. Real love stories, the messy, complicated, beautiful ones, are always worth sharing.